I'm a narcissist. Original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Okay.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. And then it became like, I will elbow everyone out of the way to play the part. That people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Well, the entertainment industry as we know it is crumbling. The latest disaster is, as you probably know, the monumental flop of Snow White, what some are calling Snow Woke, which has already lost hundreds of millions of dollars in just 2 weeks. Now, as you just saw, the lead actress in the film, Rachel Zegler, she's attracted a lot of negative attention leading up to the film's release by criticizing the original story of Snow White and ridiculing the idea of a timeless love story. Audiences didn't react well to her antics because, frankly, we're all fed up with the continuous onslaught of ideology-laden films that disregard excellence and quality. Most of Disney's recent projects have totally forsaken the importance of timeless values and creative quality storytelling to appease a fringe, woke left mob mired in political correctness. And this shift has not gone well for the many entertainment giants like Disney who've created woke media over the last several years. Audiences really are just fed up with boring stories that are hamstrung by a politically correct template. We've also seen a longing for new creativity in media as the endless remakes have received a lot of backlash simply because there's no new art being created in any of these projects. So this is why so many conservatives are sounding the alarm at the crisis at hand. Our current media that prioritizes propaganda over true artistry and timeless storytelling. So what's behind this debacle? Well, the answer to that seems to me is rather simple. The woke media industry and executives at these companies keep creating entertainment without compelling stories that are laden with ideological controversies. These power-hungry entities have hijacked Hollywood, producing a consistent stream of failures that showcase their radical agendas instead of the values that we and most Americans hold dear. They fail to acknowledge their catastrophic miscalculations while pushing for an ever-divisive narrative. Consequently, we're witnessing the collapse of creativity and the rise of mediocrity in our cinemas. It's time for a renaissance of traditional storytelling. Audiences are longing for compelling, beautiful stories that resonate with us, convey timeless values, provide meaning to our lives, and don't push the same ridiculous left-wing talking points. This is why conservatives need to rise up in the media space and create new art. Joining me today to discuss this important issue is Chandler Bolt. He's an expert in carving out space for authentic narratives that reflect truth, goodness, and beauty. Stay tuned as he guides us on how we can reclaim our media landscape and defeat the woke narrative. Chandler, welcome back. Great to see you again, my friend.
Dr. Steve, thank you for having me.
So, I mean, I assume you're familiar with the latest Disney implosion here and just all these other entertainment giants that are churning out. It just seems more ideology-laden garbage instead of beautiful, compelling stories. Why is that? What do you think's behind that?
It's a great question. I mean, I think it's, in some ways, it's the classic innovator's dilemma. Where you get so big that you're afraid to innovate, you're afraid to take risks, and you try to play it safe, which is actually the riskiest move of all. And you're trying to what you think is appeasing to the masses, but you're actually appeasing to no one because you're telling a story that no one wants or no one cares about. And even though it's a remake or a continuation, whatever you want to call it, I mean, those typically do really well. But obviously, we saw in this case, it didn't. And I think what it comes back to is people want authentic stories that are told from a point of view with the audience in mind. Right. And that's what, that's what self-publishing is all about is, hey, I have a point of view. I want to share that with a specific audience. Let me be specific in that and tell my story to the person who I think wants to hear it in the way that I think they want to hear it.
Yeah, and I love that. I love the idea of the authenticity of it, because to me, that's what makes so much of this political correctness. I called it this hamstringing of political correctness, so corrosive to art, because it's formulaic, and it's almost like, I don't know. It's almost like, early 90s hair bands in metal.
Yeah,
They
100%.
became imitation. Right.
Yeah.
They became imitations of imitations of imitations. It's just these formulaic molds that they put out there that stifle beautiful storytelling. Just in your view, because you've been on the front lines of this for so long, when did you notice any particular point of time when this shift started to happen? A shift away from, I like how you put it, just very authentic storytelling to more this politically correct mold that ended up, that ended up basically enshrining mediocrity. And I'm curious too, if you do know, why didn't anyone stop this? Just the business model end of it seems to be such a disaster.
I mean, I think it's been happening for a really long time. I think it's just amplifying and getting louder and louder and louder. I'm so glad you used the analogy of the music industry, because my brother's in the music industry. He's got,
that's right. Yes, yeah.
5 to 10 records with a major record label, and we see this play out in the music industry, in the publishing industry, and the movie industry. Is there's gatekeepers or decision makers that decide what does and does not get published. So in music, they might say, no one's going to like this. Same with movies, same with books. And so I think that's kind of the whole point, is that someone who's trying to play it safe, who's out of touch with the audience, shouldn't be the one deciding what does or does not get published. And so I think that's where that has existed for a really long time. The publishers are to the music industry what the record labels would be to the movie heads. So I think people are just kind of getting fed up with that and saying, hey, no, I want to publish or put out the art that I want to put out. And as a consumer, I want to consume content that I enjoy, not that some person up in an ivory tower making the decision on what I should like or shouldn't like or all that stuff.
It's so fascinating, Chandler, because, Elon Musk once made the analogy when he said, he likes to say on X, you are the news now. And the analogy he makes is, why should an editorial board in Manhattan determine for the entire nation what is news?
Exactly.
Shouldn't you have the right to determine what is news? And you've been on the forefront of independent publishing now for ages. You're still a youngin' compared to me, but you're getting older now. I see you're racking up the years, the wisdom, and so on. But it seems to me that's the common thread to what's happening. We are entering in an age, a new, almost like sort of cyber civilization, where the old industrial gatekeepers are being bypassed, much the same way email or texting bypasses the post office, and I think that's, you've been on the forefront of this. Is this how we spark a revival of beautiful, meaningful storytelling? Is bypassing the gatekeepers and sort of reawakening independent content creation?
1,000%. I mean, I think it's why we exist as an organization, to put the power back in the hands of the authors, right? And it's our job to help people tell their story. And I tell this to my staff all the time. We're not in the business of deciding what gets published. So we have published a ton of books that I personally disagree with.
Right.
But that's not our job is not to decide. Otherwise, we would be no different than a traditional publisher.
You'd be a gatekeeper.
Yes. And that's the antithesis of why we exist. So we do not do that.
You would be a gatekeeper. And I love it. That's what makes X so awesome in many ways, or just YouTube and so forth. It's just, you can curate the content and enjoy the content that you love. It's just our job to bring it to you, or as you do with self-publishing. How does it work? I know you have a free training coming up to help. I know we've got a lot of people who would love to write books. I've always wanted to write a book. I know you have some free training. I believe it's April 9th.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
correct on? Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good. April. How does this work? I mean, people have a ton of questions when they're thinking about creating their own art, writing their own books. Can you walk us through some of the creative and practical basics of that, of how to end up actually writing your own wonderful tome that'll be around for centuries?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that's a beautiful thing. And we'll talk about this on the training, but it's not easy, but it is simple. And so it starts with and my goal is to make it as simple and easy as possible in this training. But it starts with a core idea. Hey, I feel like I have something that I want to share with people. Then we talk about the 4 P's: person, pain, promise, price. So who are you writing it to? What's the pain that they have that they know that they have? What's the promise that you're making with this book? And get very specific about that. Right. And then we move into a framework I'll teach live on the training. It's just for your audience. And I'll talk about the more writing method. More is a framework. It's a writing framework of how do you get the idea out of your head and onto the page. But then it culminates in independently publishing the book, which this is the beautiful thing is, it used to be the only way that you sold books was to get into bookstores, and to get into bookstores, you had to have a publisher. To your point a second ago, they have to say yes to what the content of your book, you even publishing that book. There's an agent and, right? But we've really democratized the publishing world, put the power back in the hands of our authors. And so we help people through the independent publishing process. And so it's just a bunch of that stuff that we'll kind of go through on the training. But that would be the starting point. I would mention for people is, hey, think about who you're writing it to. Who's the person, the pain that they have, that they know that they have, the promise that you can make with this book. Really start thinking about that. Show up to the training, maybe with an idea or maybe a kernel of an idea or maybe a couple, and I'll show you how to narrow in on that, get the book written, get it published, market it successfully, all that stuff.
I love it. So we're going really, in many respects, from a publisher-centered industry, the old industry, to an author-centered industry,
Yes.
which then ironically restores the audience as the primary beneficiary.
Yes. Yeah, that's extremely well said.
It's beautiful. I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, I've been listening to you for a while now. I'm
like, man, we need you on the marketing team over here at selfpublishing.com.
It's so funny you say that, because I was actually down your way. I was in Austin last weekend, and I was interviewing Michael Seifert of Public Square, and I was the same kind of thing. Again, very much same concept of what you're doing. And I kind of said, so in other words, you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And I forget what I said. And he looked at me just like he said, we should hire you for our marketing. That was really well said. I think I've missed my boat, man.
I think
I've missed my calling. I got to be working for you guys. This is awesome.
Incredible.
Well, I love what you do. And, if as we kind of wind things down here, what final advice do you have for people who want to write a book? I love the 4 P's, but where can they find out more about you? How can they sign up for the free training that's coming up and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So guys, go to selfpublishing.com /Turley. So selfpublishing.com /Turley. If you're watching this ahead of April 9th, you can register, show up live. It's going to be incredible. If you're watching or listening to this after the fact, you can register and get the replay. This is just for this audience, as I mentioned earlier. But my advice would be to, first off, register, show up for the training. And secondly, get started. I mean, writing a book, it's on the maybe someday list. It's on the maybe next year list for a lot of people. And maybe someday, maybe next year becomes maybe never for most people. And so it's one thing to complain about it, and complain about people's voices not being heard or the stories out there sucking. And it's another thing to do something about it. Right. And that's the beautiful thing is you have the ability, and what we exist to do is to help people have your story told. And for some people, it's just, hey, I just want my kids and grandkids to read it. And if no one else reads it, that's fine by me. But it's this ability to create a living part of your legacy that long after you're off this earth is still here. But it starts with saying, hey, I think I might do this, and I'm going to commit to getting these words down onto the page. So don't wait. There's never going to be a perfect time to do it. You got to get started before you're ready. And hopefully this training will help you get started.
Yeah, and you're the one to do it. Again, you're the embodiment of the who, not how principle, right? Stop trying to figure out how to do something. Find somebody who knows how to do it and follow their lead. That's the apprenticeship model. It's worked for thousands of years. It continues to work now, especially with something as old as book writing. So yeah, gang, just join Chandler's free training. It's Wednesday, April 9th, 4 p.m. Eastern, to learn how to create compelling content, share your story, and you even get to push back against this crazy woke nonsense. So check out the link in the description below to secure your spot today. You will not be disappointed. Chandler is the best. Chandler, thanks, man. Come on back soon. We love you.
Dr. Steve, thank you for having me.
You bet.